Hello, everyone. Welcome inside the Red Earth Production Studios for this edition of YBMcast, powered by Game 7 Baseball, game7baseball.com. Make sure you tune in, hit the subscribe button here, hit the dinger next to it, because that's what we do. We hit some dingers. That'll get you notifications for upcoming episodes such as this, and such as we got coming up with the World Series with Game 7 Baseball. We will be out Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We'll be talking interviews. We got trivia. We got a bunch of stuff going on Friday and Saturday. Live streaming championship on Sunday afternoon. So make sure you check that out. Game7baseball.com. Rounding out the weekend. Today, though, on the show, on the Prime Sports Midwest call-in link, I have with us Diego Solares from Prep Baseball Report.
So this area back here is basically production. They do a lot of the artwork back here. They do the production. So any of that stuff that comes in off of, let's say, our fanware stores, stuff that comes in off the team stores, a lot of the coaches wear, a lot of the last minute, hey, we got to have it in the next 10 minutes stuff, that's all comes back here. This area is where all the day-to-day stuff that comes in really goes through. The retail store is its own little entity. This is where the real work is done.
Diego, how you doing, buddy?
Good, Brian. Appreciate you guys having me on. It's been a while since I've jumped on here. It's how the summer goes, man. You guys know as much as I do. It gets a little crazy, but it's been good. It's been good. I'm happy to be back.
Yeah, the first time I'd seen Kevin in a while was at the at the Legion Scout Day. So, and that's the first time I'd seen you in a while. You guys were out at the Legion Scout Day. That was cool, wasn't it? That's something.
It was a good one. Something new, something we haven't done before. I'll be straight up. I'm not as familiar with Legion ball. Honestly, going back to when I played, like kind of where I'm from, the suburbs of Chicago, it's never been anything really prominent per se. It was always, you played summer ball, you played travel ball. We're going all over the place. But I know like in the southern part of Illinois where I'm at now, and also over in Missouri, like it's still a pretty prominent. And there were some good players, like guys that we had never heard about, guys that we didn't know at all, popped up on our radar for the first time. It's always a good feeling when you go into an event. It's something new, and you know there's going to be names that you don't know, and then you come away with more than a handful of guys that were actually pretty big winners from the day. So,
just a real quick touch on that. There was Charlie Morgan. There was another young man, pitching-wise, put up some pretty good numbers, and these are big kids. They look pretty projectable too, correct?
Yeah, we had Charlie Morgan was a good one. We had Colton Carrier at the plate from Washington.
Yeah.
Strong kid, third baseman, catcher. He hit a ball 365 feet and was all over the barrel in BP. Like exit velo is not everything, but
right.
He max exit velo 97 miles an hour. But honestly, the more impressive thing was that his average exit velo was 90 miles an hour. So consistently on the barrel, hitting the ball hard. You talk about on the mound, Eli Anderson, Warrensburg High School, 6'3", 200 pounds, up to 85. He was on my mound during the bullpens, 4 pitches, all for strikes. Spun a curveball and a slider that were actually different. Like most of the time when you have high school kids that throw a curveball and a slider, they call it 2 different things, but it's the same pitch. His curveball had some more, your traditional hump to it, where the slider had a little bit more lateral tilt to it. And he was throwing a really good changeup for strikes. Like high school right-handers with changeups is a rarity nowadays because no one throws them. And he was in the zone with it, and it was good. And then Timmy Emmons from Winfield, he's a 2026, so just finished up his sophomore year, was up to 87, sat 84, 86 with like hard 2-seam run, like actual run. And he was spinning it okay, threw a good changeup, showed a splitter too. And I'm sure there's more guys I'm missing off the top of my head. Drew Eckhoff, I hope I'm saying that right, played a big role for St. Francis Borgia this past spring, hit 326. He was there, sprayed line drives throughout his round. So it was a good event. There were several good players. several guys that popped up on our on our radar.
And it's like you talk about the Timmy Emmons kid, that Ellsbury team. As far as you're talking about American Legion and where they go, the Mid South Regional is in Washington, and this Ellsbury team is loaded with names. Brady Creech going to Jeffco. I mean, it's their senior year. They just finished their senior year, but they're playing Legion, and all these guys. You got Jackson Ryder from out at Troy, Avon Weaver, who pitched a dandy of a game against Francis Howell. He's on that team. You got Gavin Woodson, who's going to Mineral Area College, is on that team. That Ellsbury team is loaded. I think they could make a good run. I'd love to see a Missouri team end up in Shelby, North Carolina in the World Series for American Legion. I think that'd be cool.
I think we all would, Brian. I think we all would.
That would be cool.
That'd be awesome. It's good to see that that Legion ball still has strong roots. Like I said earlier, I've never been super familiar with it, but guys I played with, guys that are from the southern part of Illinois or from Wisconsin or even from Missouri, like older guys never got to play that travel ball scene. It was all Legion, and it's got that high school feel to it. So it's good stuff. I was pumped for that event. I'm pumped for it next year too.
Yeah, and because even Kevin Mulder, he was a Kirkwood 156 guy. Yeah, so little shout out there. We're going to get to this though, folks. We want to talk about you guys just updated the 2027s. So new names, kids that maybe we just quite haven't heard of yet here, that are stepping up on the state. We'll call it the state scene before we go national or even regional. In that respect, right?
Yep, and just updated them 2 days ago. We were waiting until after the Super 15 over at Creekside to make sure we didn't, have any guys pop up or whatnot. Expanded the list to 50 names. And I'll be honest, this is the toughest update usually. Like the hardest update is always doing it when they are going into their freshman year, so they haven't even played in like a single inning of high school baseball. But like, it's tough to play varsity baseball as a freshman. Like your Brennan Piles of the world, your Nolan Systems of the world, those are rarities. That's not the standard. So there's a lot of projection that goes on here. I'm sure if we had this same call 2 years from now in 2026, this list will look very different. And that's just kind of how it goes. Kids change, athletes evolve, guys stay the same, guys pass them up, guys get better. Like it is what it is. But this is a pretty strong group, and Missouri's got a good track record. They're the 24 class, these guys that just graduated, very strong group. The 25s are a very strong group. The 26s have several high-level players, especially on the mound. And this class looks like it's going to be no different. So,
and folks, just so you know, there's one young man that has a commitment next to his name, Missouri, and that's because of the rule change. He got in right under the radar there before the rule change now. And so many of these kids, you will not see a commitment next to their name for, another year and a half, correct?
Until August 1st of next year. Yep, yeah. August 1st of 2025. That's when when schools can start to legally talk to them. And honestly, that doesn't mean that they're going to commit right there on the spot. They got to take their visits. They have to go through that whole process. So yeah, it'll probably be at some point next fall where you'll start to see a lot of these high level guys come off the board. But even then, a lot of them won't. And it's because of that new rule. Like we'll have guys that are quality Division I caliber baseball players probably going into their junior year, like the spring of their junior year, still uncommitted.
I think that's going to be an interesting thing. We haven't seen that for a while,
Nope, we have not. We have not. It's been a long time. It has been a long, long time.
That's going to be an adjustment, I think, for many people.
Yep, it will.
Right at the top of this is Mr. Cole Chambers, the SLU player. But, one of the things that's interesting with Mr. Chambers is he is a high caliber soccer player as well, correct?
Yeah, that's honestly, I think, what makes us like him even more. You talk about a guy that is a standout on the soccer field, and probably will be for a very long time. Those multi-sport kids, you always hear people talk about you want to play multiple sports, and there is an athletic upside to it, but also when I look at a multi-sport kid, I look at it from the lens of he's not dedicating his whole time to playing baseball because he's doing something else. So once that kid is done playing that second sport, whether it's his senior year of high school or once he gets to college, like he's going to be for the first time in his life really focusing in on baseball and locking in on something. And that just adds a whole nother element to it. Talk about Cole. He's a legit soccer player. He's also a solid shortstop, third base type, and he's really interesting on the mound. He's been up to 88 on the mound. It comes out really good, spins a breaking ball good. He's just an athlete. Good body, strong kid. Played at SLU as a freshman on a team that was playing for a district title. That's going to be a fun one to follow here for the next couple of years. I would expect him to be a staple for that SLU program for the next 3 years.
There's another name here because they follow. This young man follows us on our social media and stuff. But Hillsborough High School, Max Partney.
Yeah, when I think of Max Partney, the first thing I think of is hitter. He's a left-handed hitter, third baseman. Really swings it. It's one of those clean, easy, polished, rhythmic left-handed swings that you're just like, wow, that looks really good, and it is really good. He can really swing it. That's why he's up here. He played for Hillsborough as a freshman, had great success in the middle of that lineup. He's one of the top left-handed bats in the state, and I would think he'll be that way for a very long time.
I think that's always what's interesting to me is I'm looking at these 2027s, and when we start talking about looking at teams for next year as far as high school baseball and things like that, you see a capital city up here. What does their senior class look like? And then how do these young men, how do these sophomores maybe gauge into a team like that, right?
Yeah, so Capital City, they're going to be actually really interesting for next year. They did graduate Brock Miles, who was their senior leader, their best player, but a really good chunk of that group that played every single day. I think they won like 20. They won more than 20 games this past year. Is coming back, and I would expect Chase Stieferman, our number 2 player, the only player committed on this list. He's committed to Mizzou to really headline that group next year. On the mound, it's a left-handed arm. He's been up to 87. I would expect by next year he'll be comfortably pitching at 85, 87, maybe scratching an 8 or a 9. It's super polished. It's been that way even since he was in 8th grade. Like, he came to one of our events through one of the cleaner bullpens I've seen from a kid that age, was with us down at the Junior Future Games, and was that same way in game. It is 4 pitches. He pours them in there, all for strikes. We'll throw them in any count. And on top of that, he can swing it too. He's strong left-handed barrel. Like he was swinging it for them as well as a freshman. Plays the outfield. Could probably play a little bit of first base, given that he's left-handed. That's going to be a guy to watch. And the ultimate performer is the way I would put it. Like on both sides of the ball.
I love that, and I love this kind of stuff when you bring this when you make these points. I want people to understand. You'll see a statistic. Oh man, he 89 miles an hour. Okay, max fastball. But
right.
You get these kids into high school playing every day, and a young man like this who will be playing in different positions and whatnot. Where do you realistically? Okay, he hits this max at 87. And you said you could see him comfortably sitting and pitching at 84, 85. That's a big, that's an interesting thing. And then is he playing in the field quite a bit? How much does he use his arm? Does it take that down maybe a couple of miles an hour?
Yeah, the way I look at it is it's very similar to exit velocity too. Like max exit velocity, max fastball velocity are what you are capable of doing. Mm-hmm. It's not what you're going to do every single time. So that's a phenomenal point you brought up. Guys could get up to 89, but then you factor in, okay, they're playing a 30-game high school season. If they're young, if they're a freshman or a sophomore, they probably can't even drive a car yet. So their body's not developed the right way. Most of the time, these guys are playing multiple positions. Like oftentimes, the best player on a high school team plays at shortstop, and he's also a pitcher, right? So when he's not pitching, he's playing at shortstop. A lot of the times they're multi-sport kids, so they're playing basketball too. They're coming off basketball season. That's the longest season of the year. It goes from November to February, sometimes into March. Then they jump right into baseball. So being able to get up to that 88, 89, 90 in the winter or whatever is obviously important because it tells us, it tells coaches, it tells whoever that you are capable of reaching that. But you could see a guy up to 89 and then go watch him in a high school game and he's 83, 85. And honestly, like from our point of view, from a scouting point of view, that's perfectly fine because that kid is doing a whole lot of other things and he's probably just really tired.
But I think that's good stuff to know for people that are watching this just on the outside peripheral. I didn't really pay attention to that much till I started talking to you guys, and I'm like, oh, that makes sense. I mean, why is he only throwing 80 miles an hour? Well, he's been playing football, then he played basketball, then he's like this. Man, you come to the end of that. Are you physically? And we have to understand some of these kids aren't physically matured, even though they
Correct.
may be good athletes. Their body isn't. And it blew me away. Who was I talking to? Oh, shoot. I wish I could remember. That's the gray hair, Diego. It's killing me, man.
It happens to me too. Don't worry. It's coming. It's coming.
I was talking to a pitching. It was Gonzo Gonzalez from Mackensites.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed that conversation. He said your ligaments do not fully mature until in a male.
26. Yep.
I never knew that.
He was my pitching coach my freshman year of college.
Was he really?
First semester. Yeah, good dude. But yeah, like a lot of the time it's hard to remember that these guys they're kids. They're 15, 16, 17-year-old kids. Think of what you looked like or how physical you were when you're 15 compared to when you're 20. It's a whole different world. That's why it's boys high school baseball, men's college baseball.
Absolutely. So just remember that, folks, as you're going through here. Here's a couple of guys. It'll be interesting because they didn't go as far as they'd like to. They probably graduated some guys, but there's a couple of kids from Nixa here. Adam McKnight, Cameron Miller in the south part of the state. Talk a little bit about those guys if you got.
Yeah, so Nixa actually has 4 players in our top 25 rankings, which bodes very well for the Eagles. Adam McKnight is basically what you just described when you're talking about kids that play every sport in the world. He'll be the starting quarterback for Nixa this year. He's a standout football player. He's also an all-conference basketball player that can windmill dunk. And he started in the outfield for them as a freshman and had a very, very good season. 6'3", 185, really looks the part. That's a guy that, we haven't gotten our eyes on as much as we would have liked to. But you start to take in all these things, the quarterback, the basketball player, the fact that he's playing at Nixa, a team that has a ton of pedigree behind it as a freshman. And not only is he playing, he's having success. That kid's going to be okay. He's going to pan out. Whether it's at football, basketball, or baseball, I have no idea. But he's definitely one of the more talented players in the state. And then you talk about Cameron Miller. That's a guy that for the last 3 weeks or so has been nothing but arrow up. He saw time for Nixa as a freshman, kind of later on as the year went on. He comes down to the MPI with Building Champions at Lake Point, which is one of the best tournaments in the entire country, and absolutely tears it up. He's torn it up in front of us at the Building Champions Scout Day over in Kansas City. I just saw him at the Super 15 this past weekend in Kansas City, tearing it up too. It's a great body, 6'3", 170, all sorts of upside. He can play the infield. He can play the outfield. Clean swing with power. A guy that's going to add impact as he continues to fill out that frame. Those 2 guys are going to be centerpieces, like true middle of the order staples for that Nixa program for the next 3 years.
I always look at these things. When we got a chance to go down to Nixa, we live streamed a game down there from Nixa. It was with Springfield Catholic early in the season, and the baseball diamond is not on the actual high school campus. So we went there first. We kind of got a little lost, but went to the high school. They have a small college stadium on campus there, their football stadium at Nixa. If you haven't seen it, it's huge. And I'm like, if you're playing there as a starting quarterback, especially as a sophomore, you can
You're doing something right. You're doing something right.
I don't think, that's a big time scenario. And sometimes I don't think you understand. Those are bright lights. When you got a stadium like that, your football program is a big part of the community and what people are doing. So, we talk about Friday night lights and all that stuff. So that's that.
Yeah, that kid, that kid's not going to be scared. That's part of the reasons why quarterbacks make great pitchers. Because football is always going to be king, right? Like communities rally around the football team. If you're the starting quarterback and you can handle the pressure of playing in front of 2, 3, 4, 5,000 people every single week, when everyone's watching you touch the ball every single game. When you get on the mound in a playoff game, you're going to be all right. And that Knicks team, from a baseball perspective, I know they graduated some dudes this year, but you talk about Caden Cloud, who is one of the best players in the entire Midwest, not just in the state of Missouri. Wyatt Vincent is having a great summer for the Arkansas Sticks, playing center field, going to Missouri State. You got Jackson Jones behind the plate. You got Jackson Gamble on the mound. You add Adam McKnight. You add Cameron Miller. You add Jalen Gibson, who we have in the top 15. You add Rowan Johnson, who we have in the top 25. Who's a big physical kid up to 87 on the mound. Like, they're going to be okay. I think Coach Hughes is gonna be just fine this upcoming year.
That could be a top 5 team, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Definitely.
Yep. And they're going to play a tough schedule. Like they're going to challenge themselves. So the record may not be super gaudy like it was last year, but that's okay. And they're going to have the talent to back it up.
Wow. We'll talk about a local kid here, young man that we saw back when he was 14. He was part of our home run derby for the Cops versus Kids. Always love that stuff. We see some of these kids. Michael Wolf over at Fort Zumwalt West started as a freshman there, right field. Looked the part, played the part, was dynamic for that team.
Yeah, strong kid. Another one of those guys that just hits. Playing for Fort Zumwalt West as a freshman is no joke. I got to see him play over in the Columbia tournament. He was playing right field, made several really good plays, plays the game hard, high motor guy, strong body. I would expect him to continue to just flat out hit. He can play the outfield, he can play third base, but it's a right-handed bat that can swing it. And he was hitting towards the bottom of their lineup this year, probably just because of how young he is. Probably go ahead and pencil him in towards the top this upcoming season.
Yeah, up there with Sissom. Yeah, because they lost to Lochner over at third, who was their leadoff guy. So they got a hole to fill there, and that's going to be tough. Just as I'm going down through this, here's a name that most people won't know as far as high school wise and whatnot, and that's Carter Martin out at Warrenton High School here in Missouri. Smaller school. I think they are Class 5 though. And
they are. Yep.
But you've got him here at number 15.
Strong-bodied kid, 6'1", 6'2", about 170, plenty of room to fill out. The big thing that stands out with him is he can really spin the baseball. High school right-handers are a pretty common theme right now. Most guys obviously are right-handed than left-handed. So what really separates guys is the ability to spin, and he can absolutely do that. It's a clean operation. The arm really works. He's low 80s right now with the fastball. I would expect him, as he continues to, develop physically, get in the weight room, add 15, 20 pounds onto that frame, that wide-shouldered frame. He's going to add velo, no problem. It's going to come out real good by the time he's 17, 18 years old. And he can swing it, too. He plays the infield for them. I just saw him this past weekend in Kansas City. It's a strong right-handed swing. So he's a good one. He's going to be one to follow. Had a great season for Warrenton this past spring as a freshman.
Yeah. Here's one last name, and then I'm going to let you kind of throw some stuff out. But these are ones that popped off my brain. We saw him at the state championships. Blair Oaks just won the Class 4 state championships. His older brother, was big time there at Blair Oaks. Yep. But Wyatt Libbert, he looked the part.
Yeah, he is. He is not. Will was more of 6 foot, 6'1", compact, stronger frame. I just saw Wyatt this past weekend. He actually walked right past me. He's got to be 6'2", 6'3". Long levers. His arms go down to his knees. Kind of has that broad-shouldered, wide-shouldered frame. Up to 86, I believe, with the fastball. Spins a good little breaking ball in there. He's going to be a good one. Now, his older brother was a little different. Left-handed, up to 96, could really compete and spin. But Blair Oaks has a really good arm coming through there with Wyatt Libbert. And he can swing a little bit, too.
Yeah, absolutely. So So as we're finishing up this, and I want to let you get to the future games a little bit, and that's because that's coming up at the end of July. Some other names here that might just stand out to you in this group.
Yeah, I'll jump in here real quick and kind of rattle off some names. You got Brandon Ott. He's our number 3 player. Was getting a lot of innings at the Smet Jesuit this past spring as a freshman. No easy task. Long, lanky frame, 6'2", 6'3", 160, 170 if I had to guess. Ball comes out good. He's been up to 86. Spins a breaking ball good. Turns over a changeup. That's a guy to watch as a really high-level arm in this class. Carson Luthauser going to Rockwood Summit. He's the top-ranked catcher on our board. Strong, physical frame. Can really hit. The ball just really jumps off his barrel. He kind of offers a blend of polish and bat strength, and he can also really throw it from behind the plate. It's an upper 70s to low 80s arm that comes out of the chute hot with carry down to the bag. A couple guys that have kind of debuted here, making their way onto our rankings for the first time after strong springs or recent performances to our staff. Owen Hughes, we have him at number 9 in the state. He's a Rockhurst kid, so over in that Kansas City area, I mean, you want to talk about tools. He's a 6'8" runner, 88 from the outfield. He's left-handed arm up to 87 that can spin a breaking ball, throws a hard cutter too. 6 foot, 165. That's going to be a guy to follow over there in the Kansas City area. Another guy, Evan Magnuson, long, lean. I mean, Kevin just saw him pitch in Kansas City. He's every bit of 6'4", 6'5", 170 pounds. Like, you talk about levers, high waist, arms go down to his knees, up to 85. It's kind of like a sinker type 85. Over at Platte County High School, he's going to be one to follow. And then Brady Yates for Glendale. I don't know if you guys got to see Glendale this past spring, Brian. One of the better lineups in the state. You got Sebastian Norman. You got Mark Ross, the second, in there. Brady Yates, as a freshman, was hitting behind those two guys, playing third base, 6'1", strong kid, right-handed bat. I saw him park a homer over the scoreboard at Rockbridge High School this past spring. He can absolutely really hit. Like, there have been several good players to come through Glendale in the past couple years. Brooks Kettering. I just talked about Norman. He's going to Oklahoma State. Mark Ross is going to Central Arkansas. Their lineup was absolutely loaded. This is the next guy to know out of there. He's going to be a dude, a true middle-of-the-order right-handed bat. Like I talked about earlier, this is a really deep class. Like, Max Jones, right-handed pitcher at Seckman, saw times as a freshman, low to mid-80s. He's 6'4", 170 pounds. Warren Robertson at Rockhurst is 6'5", long levers, strong bat, up to 85 on the mound. Rylan Sutton was playing for Ozark as a freshman, left-handed hitter, good body, can really swing and can flat out go get it in the outfield. And these are guys that are in like the late teens, early 20s in our rankings. It's a deep group. It's a super talented class. It's going to be a lot of fun to follow these guys throughout the rest of their high school careers.
I love pointing to that southwest part of the state. We're working to get more down in there and do showcase games. We got down there last year, did 2 games, want to do more. Cause I'd love to get Glendale because I agree. I mean, and Ozark, both those teams were good last year, and I think they're not going away. And, Kickapoo, one of the traditional powers, they've got talent and whatnot, and will stay. Yep. So, just rattling off.
They play real good baseball down there, Brian. Really, really good baseball. I don't have to tell you, but like we talked about Nixa. You got Willard, who just won Class 5. Yeah. Springfield Catholic won Class 4, then bumped up to Class 5. You got Kickapoo, like you said. Glendale's been really good the last couple of years. They went to Class 5, or they were Class 5. They ran into Jack Noby. Unfortunately, they didn't make their way to state. They bump up to Class 6. They won like 23 games in a row, and they lost to Cole Gibler. One of the best arms, and to the eventual state champions. So tough run for them there, but really, really good baseball. Ozark down there. I am sure I'm missing some schools.
Logan Rogersville.
Kind of a hotbed. Logan Rogersville, thank you. Our number one small school the entire year. Yeah. Really good baseball down there.
Absolutely. And it's fun to cover this and talk a little bit real quick. We got just a little bit of time left. We got to let Diego get to his real job. But the future games, it's coming up pretty soon. You guys are starting to select players. How do you guys do that? I mean, there's so much talent. That's got to be a tough gig.
Brian, I'll tell you right now, it is the hardest thing we do all year because of what you said right there. There are so many good players in the state that, inevitably guys are not going to get to come, which is tough. But we really base off like who we're selecting on a lot of things. You have to have tools, you have to have physicality, but at the end of the day, it's can you play the game? When you're on the mound, do you have next level stuff, and are you in the strike zone? At the plate, do you have a next level feel to hit, and can you impact the game not only at the plate but also positionally? Are you a shortstop? Are you a center fielder? Are you a left-handed bat? Can you really run? Can you really hit for power? So it's tough, and there's a lot of things that go into it. But last year's Missouri team, our 2025 class was very, very good. We kind of went down there and kind of ran through the competition. I'm not going to lie. This year's group has a chance to be just as good, especially on the mound. There are several. I'm looking at the roster right here. There are several very good arms making their way down there. So it should be another fun one.
Absolutely. I loved what you said there real quick, especially pitching. And I think this has gotten lost a little bit within this. I love it. Fantastic. I love velocity. We know it works. It's there. But can you throw a strike with it? Please. And I think we got to kind of get back to that and the development process of learning how to pitch while building velocity. If you've killed two birds and plunked four guys, it just doesn't matter that you throw 95, because in the end, they're coming to get you. I mean, that's just the way it works. And I hope we continue to have that conversation and come back to that thought process. With what I understand now about pitching, as far as the body and the strength and things like that, I think it behooves us to allow these kids to grow up a little, and let the velocity come as you develop how to pitch, learn how to pitch. You made mention of some of these kids that are throwing their off-speed stuff for strikes. That's a matter of development, and those things to me are more important at this point in these kids' world than hitting that 9 when they're 15, 16, and 17.
Yeah. I will also say this, being a guy that used to pitch, and I kind of view that as a strength of mine. It's more than just throwing hard. I talk to guys that play college baseball right now that are college hitters that start at every level, Division II, junior college, Division I, NAIA, whatever it is. Anybody nowadays with the training they have, with the incorporation of pitching machines, like if you're 92, 94, touch 95, 96, whatever it is, and it's just fastball, like guys can hit that. They really can. It's not, wow, Aroldis Chapman's throwing 100. No one else is throwing 100. Now everybody's throwing hard, right? So when I evaluate guys, when I look at a pitcher, honestly, to me, it's more of can you spin or can you turn over a changeup? And obviously you have to have velocity, like velocity plays. Like you can't be 82, 84 and pitch at the University of Kentucky. Right. But you can be 90, 92 and throw a really good slider and turn over a changeup. That's going to get a lot of guys out. Just watch the College World Series with the game on the line. Tony Vitello's turning a left-hander that's 88, 90, but he can really spin a breaking ball and he can really turn over a changeup and he throws a bunch of strikes. So it's all one big piece of it's one big puzzle, and you got to have all the pieces to really put it together. But just throwing hard, and even if you're throwing super hard and in the strike zone, you're going to get certain guys out. But once you get to college, like I see dudes that are 95, 97 with 7 ERAs because guys can hit fastballs. They can. They really can.
I love that. That's great, folks. I hope you're listening, because that's tremendous piece of information. And this is a gentleman that is in the business of putting you in front of folks. So it's always good to pay attention to these things and listen and take in this information. That's our goal here. Diego, always a pleasure, man. Been a while. Hopefully we get you back on sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Appreciate you guys having me. Our summer's starting to kind of dwindle down a little bit. You know, we're not running any more events, so we'd be happy to jump on whenever. This is always fun.
Absolutely. Always a great conversation. Folks, where can they follow you at, Diego?
Anything that comes out of us will be at Prep Baseball Mo. You know, we're kind of making that transition away from PBR into the whole prep baseball thing now. So at Prep Baseball Mo, MO for Missouri, obviously. We'll have a bunch of stuff coming out there from our Legion Scout Day, from Kansas City for tournaments as the future games come up. And then, you know, the summer is over and we go right into the fall. So it's a never-ending cycle. But yeah, that's where all of our content will come out of.
Very good. Thanks, appreciate it. Folks, thanks for tuning in. If you like what we're doing, please take a moment, hit that subscribe button, hit the dinger next to it, get your notification for upcoming episodes such as this. Great information from this gentleman. Thanks for tuning in. Everybody have a great day in the Lord. Hey, Diego, give the pitchers some advice.
Throw strikes.
I love
Throw
it.
a whole lot of strikes.
It's a simple game.
It's not always easy, but that's the goal. That's
And
the
hit,
goal.
hitters, hit them where they ain't. We'll see y'all next time.